So to y'all, this is an indication of what our life as committee meetings is going to be like today. I have a couple on virtual, and I have two competing full committee meetings, but we do have our 7, which is what we need to get started. So Representative Barr is number 2. Okay. If you'll open us with a prayer.
Sure. Father God, we bow our hearts this morning and ask you for wisdom. God, we want to be responsible with our positions. God, we thank you for allowing us to be here and represent uh, our communities. God, we ask in the name of the blood of Jesus Christ that you just come upon us this morning. God, give us your joy and help us to show others your love. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. So first of all, welcome everyone to our first meeting in 2021. I'd like to start off by introducing my staff. David Hartman is the budget and policy analyst. Just wave. Do you show up? All right. Well, I hope people can see you. Paul Higbee, legislative counsel, in the audience, as far away from us as he can possibly be. Okay. And then Nicole Chappelle, the committee assistant. And then our intern, Jasmine Gleaton. So these folks make these meetings possible. They know how to do quick drills and make things happen. Before we move on at all, I would like to take the opportunity to allow our members to introduce themselves. So we'll start with you, Representative Campbell, but I need you to punch your button so I can key you in. All right, go ahead.
I'm Representative Joe Campbell from District 171 in South Georgia, and I'm honored to be a member of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Great to have you. And then you're number 15, okay?
I'm Lauren McDonald III, represent District 26, which is in Forsyth County. Basically, the district is from the Buford Dam all the way to the Dawson County line in Lake Lanier. Glad to be here. Thank you, Ms. Chair.
Thank you, and welcome to both of y'all. And then I'm Representative Lynn Smith from Newnan, Georgia, and I've chaired this committee since 2005. So I will tell you, it's a great committee with great members. So thank y'all. And then number 2.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Timothy Barr, state rep from Gwinnett and Hall counties. This is by far my favorite committee, but we'll keep that here. I have learned an extreme amount from Madam Chair and the way she runs her meetings. Very professional. Everybody gets heard, and I appreciate that. I have 4 little kiddos, been married to my wife for 13 years, and I'm a builder by trade.
Thank you. And Representative Davis, I think you're number 8. 9, okay.
Hello, I'm Representative Viola Davis, and I serve House District 87, located in DeKalb County, primarily in Tucker and Stone Mountain. This is my first time being on this committee, and I am very grateful. I've heard nothing but great things about this committee. Thank you.
So I think our committee's gained another great member, 3 good members today. So thank you. Now we're going to try something virtually. We'll see how this works. But if y'all can mute your buttons when I call your name, just say hello and where you're from. Representative Angelica Kraus.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Representative Angelika Kauscher, and I
So
give
she's visiting us on, okay, we got her.
You got it?
So why don't I do it this way? I'll go ahead and just tell the names of those who are listening to us virtually. And we will be voting this morning on the rules for the committee. So stay tuned while we do this. Representative Mary Frances Williams. Representative Deborah Bazemore. And did we gain anyone else? So welcome to our meeting. The first order of business is to adopt our rules. And the rules have stayed the same for several years, except for the addition of number 1, and that is to help us adjust to virtual meetings. The quorum of the Natural Resource and Environment Committee, hereafter called committee, shall be 7 members. Subcommittee can meet, can set their own quorum. Any member attending the meeting virtually shall notify the chairperson, committee analyst and/or admin assistant to the chairperson of their intent to participate virtually in advance and will then count towards the committee quorum. So any questions on that? So I will entertain a motion.
Adopt, the rules of 21-22 as written.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
I have several seconds. And so all those in, all right, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? So now we're official and we can begin our meetings for 2021. Now I've been told Zoom audio is working, so we'll try and give Representative Angelica Kraus an opportunity to introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Angelika Kausche, and I'm the state representative for House District 50 in North Fulton, Johns Creek. I represent one of the most diverse districts in Georgia, so having an accent here is almost a requirement. This is my second term serving on this wonderful committee, and I'm really excited to be here again because I have learned so much about Georgia and what is important to us. So thank you so much for being so I'm really grateful for being on this committee again and looking forward to working with everyone. And I approve the rules.
Thank you. Representative Mary Frances Williams.
Hi, I'm a little under the weather, not COVID, thank heavens, but very happy to be back and a part of this committee. And I represent House District 37, which is part of the city of Marietta and parts of West Cobb and Northeast Cobb. And again, real excited to be back with Natural Resources Committee. Again, it's my favorite committee too. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Deborah Bazemore.
Good morning, all. And my name is Representative Deborah Bazemore, and I represent District 63, which encompasses a portion of Fulton, Fayette, and Clayton counties. And I am pleased and excited. I didn't know what to expect my first term on natural resources, but I am so excited about it. I've learned a lot, even though we're not in rural areas, but everything that we've learned affects all of us in the state of Georgia. And I believe that our chairwoman is one of the best, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And then we've had two members join us. So Representative Gamble, if you'll introduce yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Matthew Gamble from House District 15, Cartersville, Bartow County, and I'm new to the committee, and I'm looking forward to learning a lot and appreciate the opportunity to serve.
Thank you. And then Representative Robert Dickey, if you'll push your button for me. All right.
Madam Chair, Robert Dickey from Musella, Georgia, District 140, and just looking forward to serving again with you and your leadership on this committee and wise direction. So thank you.
I hope that maintains when we have difficult votes. I'm just bringing that up to y'all. You can call me names afterwards. So now we're going to move into what we normally do in the beginning of our term, and that is to start looking into the agencies that have legislation that come before our committee. And we'll see if we can make this transition. First of all, we're going to hear from the Department of Natural Resources. So we'll be watching that on our video.
Well, good morning, Madam Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Whoops, yes, and good morning to you. What map do you have back behind you?
It's one of our displays that we use, some of our marketing tools that shows all our divisions in DNR.
Thank you. The floor, well, the TV is yours.
All right. Well, thank you, Madam Chair, committee members, for giving our team the opportunity to brief you on the state of DNR and what we've been working on. Although we're at a distance, I just want to acknowledge that this is our first meeting of the session with this committee, and it's great to once again be doing the people's work alongside with this committee. If you're new to the committee, I'm Mark Williams, Commissioner for the Georgia Department of Natural Resources. Our department looks forward to serving as a resource for you in your important role, and should you ever need anything, please reach out to my office and our Director of Government Affairs, Josh Hildebrandt, who is ready to help 24/7. To start, DNR has statewide responsibilities for the management and conservation of Georgia's natural, historic, and cultural resources, including fish and wildlife, land conservation, coastal resources, sustainability initiatives, and outdoor recreation opportunities. To see this mission done, DNR has 5 divisions, of which you will hear from shortly, from 4 of our division directors. The 5th division is EPD, and you will hear separately from Director Rick Dunn after DNR's presentation. DNR is fortunate to administer a good number of state and federal grant programs. Our flagship grant fund is the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Act program, which originated from the highly popular legislation and constitutional amendment referendum in 2018. In only its 2nd grant cycle, this program provides annual designated funding to projects that support conservation, outdoor recreation, and land acquisition. Applicants and recipients of funds may include state agencies, local governments, verified recreation authorities, and nonprofit organizations. The first grant cycle in 2020 awarded $19.8 million in grant funds to impactful projects from Forsyth County to Meriwether County, all the way down to Camden County. We are now in the 2nd grant cycle and look forward to the approval of the newest slate of proposed projects by the Senate and House Appropriations Subcommittees in the coming days. This slate includes $20.6 million in grant funds, which cover 9 significant projects ranging from a new visitor center at Amicalola Falls State Park in North Georgia to an acquisition of 11,600 acres on the Georgia coast. Undoubtedly, the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program is an irreplaceable tool that places Georgia among the leading states for conservation and outdoor recreation in the country. Thank you for your continued interest and support, Madam Chair, in this committee, and let's keep that momentum going. Now I'd like to introduce our division directors and hand it over to them to share more information about their reports. Way down on the coast in Glenn County, I'll turn it over to Doug Hangmans, our Coastal Resources Director. Doug?
Thank you, Commissioner, and good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for having us today. I took the opportunity this morning to bring in my division leadership. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Carl Burgess, our Assistant Director, Dr. Carolyn Belcher, Chief of Marine Fisheries, and Ms. Jill Andrews, Chief of Coastal Management. Now I'm going to share my screen with you, and if everything runs as it should. Hopefully, you're seeing a Coastal Resources Division cover slide, I hope. Are you, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Technology's working. I have a tough challenge ahead today in order to show you the division in 4 to 5 minutes. And the first challenge is getting the slides to advance. There we go. Okay, so basically the coast of Georgia is blessed with many, many natural resources, from our beaches to our marshes, the beautiful river setting. The Coastal Resources Division is charged with managing these for the benefit of present and future generations. We do this through the Coastal Marshlands Protection Act, the Shore Protection Act, Revocable Licenses Authority, the Coastal Management Program, and Title 27 as it pertains to saltwater recreational and commercial fishing. And we have about 64 full-time employees, and at the height of summer sampling, about 13 part-time employees. Our area of responsibility includes 11 coastal counties extending from Charlton up to Effingham and then down the coastline. Trying to decide how to do this in just a couple of minutes, I put an awful lot on one slide. These are some important updates that we experienced through 2021 and kind of gives you an example of the things that the Coastal Resources Division is responsible for. First of all, the 2020-2021 shrimping season seemed to be a bumper year. Through November, we had landed 2.3 million pounds, valued at about $11 million. That was a 23% increase over the 5-year average and a 15% increase in value. And of course, I said these are through November. Reports run a little late, about a month late, so we're still waiting on December and January reports to come in. So we expect to see even higher numbers. With the COVID-19 came the first CARES Act early on last year. And of the $2 trillion, there was $300 million allocated to commercial and charter fishermen and processors around the nation. Georgia received a $1.9 million share of that. And after the process was finished, 59 commercial fishermen and charter fishermen experienced a loss of at least 35% of revenue over the months of March, April, and May. And those 59 split $1.5 million in aid. Now, I'll tell you, it was only 59 because of the first point that we talked about. We had a bumper shrimp season. When the restaurants closed, the supermarkets really opened up. People bought an awful lot of seafood through the supermarkets, and that kept shrimp values high. So recreational fishing was also impacted by COVID in a positive way. Our anecdotal information at boat ramps showed us up to a 78% increase in use of our boat ramps. And you'll see on the slides here just a couple of illustrations of packed boat ramps and highways. And so we're taking advantage of that opportunity and looking at our boat ramps and where we can expand parking and make improvements there. I'll also tell you that this year you are due several legislative reports that we will begin sending you over the next few days. First is the Coastal Management Act Triennial report. That is being wrapped up, and I hope to transmit it to you tomorrow. The cover shot of that is here, so you'll see that. We also owe you a water bottoms lease activities report and a report on our rulemaking based on Title 27, 410, 412 and 10 and 12, excuse me. I'll tell you briefly that in 2020, we added oceanic white-tipped sharks to the prohibited list. We increased the minimum size for short-fin mako to 83 inches, and we required circle hooks when catching sharks for recreational purposes. And finally, one of the other mandates of that was that when the commissioner issues an administrative order to close a season for a period of time by species, we need to report on that as well. And so in 2020, we closed bluefish season for the months of March and April. Both of the actions, the sharks and the bluefish action, were in relation to an Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission fishery management plan. And finally, just another shout out to you guys for supporting us with the Marine Habitat license plate about 4 years ago. That plate's been in full production for about 3 years now. There's roughly 9,000 on the road at any one time. It's generated a hair over $500,000 in those first 3 years. And we've been putting out a lot of material offshore and now beginning to move inshore with those funds. So again, we're very appreciative of that. I was told that you would like a shellfish update specifically. So in this one slide, I will tell you that we were impacted by COVID-19 in our timeline in a couple of ways. One was that the Corps of Engineers basically shut down all meetings for a significant amount of time. And so we were unable to work through some of the permitting issues with those guys until later on in the fall. It also affected the hatchery that produced at Skidaway that produced the seed oysters. So that was shut down throughout the spring. So I would venture to tell you that we are roughly 1 year behind in our shellfish initiative. Just changed to 2020 to 2021, and we picked back up. What we were able to accomplish during that time, we were able to get all of our existing permits and leases in order with the law change. There was significant rewrites of many of the management plans, and so that was very beneficial. We were able to hire the 2 new biologists. Thank you to you guys very much for that, to get the program rolling. And then we were able to issue 5 new intertitle leases in McIntosh and Bryan counties. In the coming months, we hope to reconvene the Shellfish Advisory Panel, put the finishing touches on the lottery, and before the end of spring, get the subtitle leases that we had so much discussion about issued. And finally, I also heard you wanted to hear just a little bit about the Golden Ray. If you look real hard off my left shoulder, you can see the Golden Ray on the horizon. The Golden Ray, they have removed the bow section and stern section and are over 50% complete with the third section, which contains the engine room. We had expected any day to hear that section was removed, but well, with the whole project, it's a little behind time. Those sections are being removed and shipped to Louisiana, where they're being dismantled and recycled there. I encourage you, if you have questions about the Golden Ray, to go to ssiresponse.com. And there are updated pictures and press releases and video of everything that's going on. Madam Chair, that was a very brief report from the Coastal Resources Division. I appreciate your visit to us on the coast this time last year, and hopefully when all this COVID's over, you'll be able to do it again with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. And to our committee, we'll ask the Coastal Resource Division to give us all of their slides and handouts. So we'll have that. And any specific questions, I think you could go ahead and email your questions to us at the Capitol, and we'll try and get them answered. We do make it a point as a committee to find ways to get down to the coast to check out all these things. So it might not be this year, it might be next year, but the Golden Ray, that is it on its side. And it, I remember that they were able to get it and have it out of the traffic lane for barges and for transportation. It's a fascinating story, and even more so how they're removing it with working with environmental groups, all kind of groups, to try and protect that part of Georgia. So thank you for that. And we would like your slides and contact information for our committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is a fascinating operation. I think that is the largest crane, that yellow structure people saw. That's the largest crane in North America. So I'm glad you got to come down there and see it personally, but any committee members that would like to go down and watch that operation and have time, just contact Josh or myself or Doug direct, and we'll make arrangements to get you out there and get a closer view of it. But at this time, I'd like to introduce Colonel Thomas Bernard from our Law Enforcement Division. Most people know them as game wardens. And Thomas, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. We'll go over real quick our 2020 results. Our game wardens work 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, and they do just great work. As COVID brought additional duties to us, they still maintain their core mission. And our core duties are, of course, enforcing laws on hunting, fishing, boating, environmental, and as well as our control properties, which is on our parks and our WMAs as well. And they've done that heroically this year, despite the increase of people on our woods and waterways and management areas. Our hunting incidents were down 7%. Our boating crashes were down 8%. We did see an uptick in our boating under the influence arrests. They were up by 8%. We conducted 327 search and rescue operations this year. And despite COVID, we also conducted over 1,000 educational programs in our local schools, teaching them about the importance of our natural resources. Those are our strategic goals. This is what pushes us every day. Of course, conservation law enforcement. We're the only agency that does this statewide, and so it's very important that we focus on our core mission, education, marketing, and community involvement. We've got to have community support, and those are the credits that we build in the Bank of Community Trust by continuing to have open dialogue and transparency with our public. We're also training our current officers, state-of-the-art training, recruiting the right people, and then also retaining them. During this year, we also assisted our various state and local agencies during some of the protest response in various places around the state. Our objectives there were to preserve life and property and protect the rights of citizens for peaceful assembly. We provided security at the state capitol, the governor's mansion, World Congress Center, the Olympic Park there in Atlanta, and of course, various retail businesses. Had additional response around Atlanta, Athens, and Savannah. Just from May 29th to June 7th, we had 309 deployments, a little over 3,000 man hours. And our main duty on this was our QRF teams on our ATVs. They were able to get around the city in a quick response to help protect life and property. Had additional response June the 13th to the 15th there in Atlanta as well, and the same duties as previous deployments. November, we were called back to the Capitol to assist with additional protests there. No issues at that time either. Also during 2020, we were called upon to enforce Governor Kemp's executive orders when it comes to COVID-19 and to work on our beaches. As you can see there, our waterways and parks were just heavily used. People were going to those to reduce the COVID stress that they were experiencing, and it provided a great getaway at the same time. For the most part, everyone was compliant with the order, and we were just there to maintain a presence and to answer any questions that they had. We've also been working really close with DPH. We have been shipping a lot of the vaccine by air and by vehicle around the state. This past week, we assisted GEMA with setting up 4 different vaccination sites around the state. And so we've been heavily involved with that as well. And that's very important as we continue that endeavor. Last but not least, we currently have 9 cadets in our academy. It's 23 weeks. They have an expectation of graduating June the 18th. We just changed our requirements. And before this year, you're required to have an associate's degree. We now allow veterans with an honorable discharge in lieu of an associate's degree to apply. And we're working with the Pathfinder program to the military for recruitment efforts there. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation. They're the quiet workhorses for the state of Georgia, and they're just invaluable to our state. So thank y'all, and we appreciate what you do. Again, to our committee, we are sending out these slides. We have most of them. You should already be getting them in your drop in the email. Thank you again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would note for some of the committee members, game wardens are the oldest state-sponsored law enforcement entity in the state, and Colonel Bernard and his group have been doing great work since 1911, and we're very proud of them. And now I'll introduce Jeff Cowan, who is the division director for our great state parks across the state. Jeff.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I appreciate this opportunity to update you on the happenings at our wonderful state parks and historic sites. I assume y'all can hear me, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I do not have a PowerPoint, but I have provided a fact sheet to Josh and David, so hopefully they can get that to the members to talk about our state parks. Just an overview of our state parks. We have 49 state parks, 16 historic sites, 5 lodges, 8 golf courses that encompass over almost 85,000 acres. We have 428 cabins and cottages, 45 campgrounds with over 2,400 sites, 39 yurts. We have over 900 miles of hiking, biking, and equestrian trails. And we have over 800 employees that greet over 11.4 million visitors each year, and we have a $1.2 billion economic impact in Georgia. To talk a little bit about impacts on the pandemic, during the pandemic, Georgia State Parks and Historic Sites stayed open. We did limit access to certain things to provide for socially distancing and all that. Initially, we had massive cancellations, and we were concerned about where we could go with this. But then when folks realized that state parks was a safe place to recreate, those cancellations were being booked back, and we had more bookings. Some things we did, we went to online check-in and payments over the phone to limit interaction with our guests. We created operational plans to assure the ability to socially distance while recreating on our sites. I want to thank GDOT for assisting with messaging signs and cones to inform and control parking areas coming onto our sites. And I want to thank our law enforcement division and the Georgia Department of Public Safety for assisting us with traffic entering our sites. When people found out we were open and we were the only recreation open in town, they really started coming to our facilities, and so we had to get folks safely in and out of our area. Also, we had to acquire the necessary PPE for our employees, and so I want to thank GEMA and LED for assisting us with getting that PPE. So like I said, we had to create ops plans to limit the access to not allow overcrowding at our sites. And it's become where we normally have holiday level visitation at Memorial Day, July 4th, maybe Labor Day, but we've had that every weekend since the folks were comfortable coming to our parks. We even continue to have limited access to some of our more popular parks on good weather weekends in the dead of winter, like Cloudland Canyon, Fort Mountain, and Providence Canyon. Just to give you a few stats of what has been going on, and these stats are for the first half of fiscal year 21 compared to the first half of fiscal year 2020. We have seen in this first half of 21, we have seen 1.3 million more visitors than last year, a 27% increase. Our nights occupied have gone up as well. Our cottages, we've seen 21% more than last fiscal year. Camping, we've seen 48,000 more occupied nights for 27% increase. And our yurts, which have been very popular during this as well, we've seen a 39% increase. Golf has been played as well. Folks, continue to recreate with golf. We've had 12,000 more rounds than last year during the first 6 months with a 37% increase. A couple of things that are still off, our historic sites are not getting the admission that we previously had. We're down 5% on them. And our group business is pretty much is way down because of gatherings. We know that, which is understandable. So our group shelters and our group camps are down 42% over last year. I cannot thank the state parks and historic sites team enough for the job they've done during the pandemic. They stood out there and provided a recreation opportunity, and had to see folks and get folks in and out of our parks safely. They've been there every day, welcome our guests, and serving Georgia in a very proud way. Okay, so as far as today, COVID today, we have learned a new way to operate during the pandemic. And one of the things we're doing currently is we are currently working with East Georgia Healthcare Center to provide vaccination locations. This center service area is Tattnall, Jenkins, and Emmanuel counties. And we have a couple parks in there. We have held vaccine days with them at Magnolia Springs Group Shelter in Jenkins County and Jack Hill State Park Group Shelter in Tattnall County. And both of those initial days, they vaccinated 100 folks. And we'll continue to work with folks who would want to use our facilities to get vaccinations out to the citizens. Thank you for your time, and I would be happy to answer any questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And for our committee, we've already sent you the contact information and his presentation as well. And Jeff, thank you for your report. What is your screen? What's your backdrop?
I'm joining you virtually from beautiful Seminole State Park in Southwest Georgia.
So that's, multi-layers of advertising. That's great. One of the things to know about our state parks is they play a big role in the state's economy with economic tourism. And so far, I think y'all are seeing that the people who work with these state agencies not only enjoy what they're doing, but they kind of give it their heart and soul. So we appreciate very much. And we might need to check out some of those parks you mentioned. So
be glad to join you there. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, thank you, and thank you, Jeff. Probably in the coming days, you will be receiving a park pass, an annual park pass, and as Madam Chair Lady said, we encourage y'all to come out and visit our parks, and Josh will be dropping off those by the office probably first of next week. And at this time, Madam Chair, I'll call on Mr. Ted Will. Last year, you heard from Rusty Garrison. Rusty Garrison has retired and moved on to spend time with his grandchildren, but we're very proud to introduce Ted Will as the new Wildlife Resources Director. Ted?
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. First off, thank you for this opportunity to be able to present to you today, and I just want to thank you for your service in the committee and to the Georgia citizens. First off, for Wildlife Resources Division, we, just like the department and our division, we are a customer-based department and division. We have a lot of customers out there. We have millions of fish, over 1 million fishermen, 600,000 plus hunters. We have people who love to view wildlife generally, and a growing interest in target shooting as well. And it's important, I think, also for the committee to kind of recognize the value of these customers to Georgia itself. They spend a lot of money, you know, on average, somewhere around $2.5 billion in retail sales each year just for our hunters and anglers. Also, from our division, it's kind of hard to put this in kind of a scope, but our staff are daily involved in a lot of land, water, and facilities type management activities. We have public fishing areas, wildlife management areas, fish hatcheries, boating access facilities, a boating access crew, shooting ranges, archery ranges, regional educational centers scattered around the state. And, you know, I would say for the educational centers, they've done a great job in coping with COVID and delivering some great conservation messaging to our schools through some virtual platforms. And it's also important to recognize how blessed we are in Georgia to have such an ecologically diverse state. I mean, we're top in the nation. So, I mean, when you talk about, we got over 265 some freshwater fish species, almost 800 plant species, some 80 some amphibians. We are truly diverse. And with that diversity comes a lot of responsibility. And, you know, from the mountains to the Piedmont region to the coast, we just have tremendous amount of different habitats and species that live within those habitats. And I do want to point out, because the majority of my presentation kind of will revolve around hunting and fishing moving forward, that we have a great wildlife conservation section that does tremendous conservation planning and actions on 99% of those species that you typically do not hunt or fish for. I did want to just briefly, you know, Jeff already talked about state parks and how they're seeing the increased use with COVID related activities, people wanting getting outdoors, and we're seeing that as well. So hunting and fishing license sales are up, revenue is up, and these are great things. We have, boating, even boating vessel registration is up 8%. So that's all positive, and we really appreciate the opportunity to kind of take advantage and introduce some new people to the outdoors. Also want to point out, even on our own properties, say public fishing areas, we're seeing a large amount of increase in use. Some generally around 50% on average on public fishing areas. And some of these individuals might not be fishing, maybe they're just getting outdoors, but we appreciate the opportunity to serve them and provide an opportunity for them. And also on our wildlife management areas, I would just point out that we are seeing a kind of an increase in use in hunter sign-in and around those urban areas in Metro Atlanta as well. Finally, what about all these people going outdoors? It's been a great year. We've seen a real increase in deer harvest. We had a record-breaking year in alligator harvest. Our dove fields on wildlife management areas ended up being just spectacular this year. We received several compliments, and we were just so pleased with the staff efforts in planning and preparing those fields. Mother Nature treated us well too. But overall, it was just a tremendous year from a hunting and outdoor recreation perspective. And up in the upper right-hand corner of this slide, there's a staff member of the Department of Natural Resources that actually harvested a tying record for Camden County along the coast of Georgia for that deer that you see in the picture there. Finally, not only was it a great year, we got a lot of new things happening and we're excited about them. We got a community fishing program where we're going out to state parks, city and county parks to enhance those opportunities for the public. We're stocking thousands of bluegill and channel catfish into those lakes. We got the Georgia Deer Management Assistance Program going in full speed, over 109,000 acres enrolled in that program, where we're assisting landowners and those individuals with hunting leases on property specific management objectives for deer. And another exciting new program that's well on its way is the Urban Wildlife Program. We have a program there where we're assisting all citizens in and around the metro Atlanta area with human wildlife type conflict issues. So they've been active, they've been serving. The majority of those calls center in and around deer and coyotes, raccoon, foxes, but they have just a variety of needs there, and we're just excited about what they're doing moving forward. So, Madam Chair, again, thank you. Committee members, thank you, and let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. Again, we had the slides to give to our committee, but thank you so much for your presentation. And to the committee, it's almost overwhelming when you recognize how many tasks and chores that these different divisions have for the state of Georgia. But again, we appreciate your actions, your love of Georgia, and how you maintain these natural resources. And thank you very much, Commissioner Williams, for the presentation. At some point, we'd like to get together with you and your different division heads when it's safe to do so. But it's a great report. We do not have time for questions today, but y'all just jot down your questions and we'll get them addressed. So thank you again. I do have a question about urban wildlife, and are you talking about people as well, or what was your focus there?
Yeah, the urban wildlife is where we're working with people in and around the metro Atlanta area. Would say a deer caught up in a fence in the backyard. So we're going in and assisting those citizens in those sort of issues. And there's a wide variety of injured or sick wildlife, or just a presence of wildlife is alarming to a lot of our citizens in that area as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you again. Commissioner Williams, do you want to do the exit for us?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Annual figures sometimes are hard to comprehend, but just some of the economic impact that hunters and fishermen have on the state, an easier figure to grasp is they spend over $5 million per day in this state on their passion. So it does have a huge economic impact. And I also wanted to say that Josh, along with the park passes, will be bringing soon to every one of your office, every legislator's office, and what I call a little cheat sheet for your district. And on that, it's a one pager, but it'll tell you how many hunters and fishermen you have in your constituency, tell you how many boat ramps you have, how much public land for recreating you have that we manage. So it's a great little resource just to have close to your phone, or what my wife calls refrigerator stuff, and for you to look at. But Division Directors, thank you for sharing your presentations. In closing, Madam Chair, I want to thank the committee for taking time to hear from us today and making a commitment to serve the great state of Georgia, her citizens, her visitors, and her natural resources. As I am a former and still recovering legislator, I know this is no simple task. It requires attention around the clock. Thank you again, Madam Chair, and we'll be glad to answer questions that are sent to us online. And I'll turn it over, I guess, now to Rick Dunn.
Yes, thank you. And we're moving to our next presentation. And so you've heard from the Department of Natural Resources and all the different divisions underneath Department of Natural Resources. Now you're going to hear from the Environmental Protection Division. And the two do go together in that we need a balance between our economy and our environment. And these are the agencies that help us have that. So I guess we'll switch now to Rick Dunn. Rick, you there?
I'm here, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you and to members of the committee. It's a pleasure to be with you. I am Rick Dunn. I am the Director of the Environmental Protection Division. Rather than give an overview, the chair has asked me to talk about two topics, and it's going to take most of the time to fairly address those two topics, and that is an update on the water wars and withdrawals from Lake Lanier. So I'm going to focus my remarks on those two issues. I'm going to attempt to share my screen if you'll give me a moment. Is that working there? Can you see the large screen?
Not yet.
Okay.
There we go. We got it.
Is it there? Okay, great. Again, I'm going to focus on water supply issues. Both Lake Lanier withdrawals and the water wars are two related topics. And I thought I would start off with a map of the two river basins that provide water supply. If I can get my screen to advance here. Bear with me for a moment. I apologize. I'm going to bring up the smaller version of that. I don't seem to be able to advance the screen. So bear with me just a second here.
Director Dunn is working on that.
Can you
When
see
I
that?
first was elected, yes, in 1996, started serving in 97, the water wars were going on and becoming more and more active. So this is an issue, a policy issue that is very important to the state of Georgia and an issue that is definitely before our committee. Thank you.
Yeah, so here's a map of the two river basins that provide water supply to about 55% of the state's population, and even supports an even larger proportion of the state's economic activity. These are the ACT Basin, the Alabama-Coosa-Tallapoosa River Basin there on to the west side, and the ACF Basin, the Apalachicola-Chattahoochee-Flint River Basin there to your right. And it was interesting listening to the members who are present today, most of whose districts are located in these two river basins. These two basins also receive most of the state's treated wastewater, supplies Metro Atlanta with about 80% of its water supply, and supports one of the most productive agricultural regions in the nation down in Southwest Georgia. In addition to being workhorses, these are also, as you'll see, interstate water basins, which drives a lot of the history behind water use in these basins, as well as the political dynamics that we'll talk a little bit about. I also want to point out on this map I think is important for understanding the importance of Lake Lanier, located up there in the top right-hand corner. In Metro Atlanta, the big water management challenge is how to ensure an adequate water supply for a fast-growing region. And water management in Metro Atlanta is especially difficult given the challenges presented by geography, geology, and climate. In the Atlanta area, and for most of North Georgia for that matter, we are dependent upon surface water for our water supplies. In North Georgia, significant groundwater supplies are limited by the geology that's present north of the fault line. Think of hard Stone Mountain granite in the ground, and you'll get a sense of why groundwater supply is really not that feasible. You'll also note, if you look at the map, the Atlanta area is located at or close to the headwaters of the ACF and the ACT basins. As a result, the drainage area of the surface waters that are available to Metro Atlanta is very, very small. A lot of people ask, why does it take Lake Lanier so long to refill after a drought? It's because it's only about 5% of the drainage area in the basin. That's why Lake Lanier takes so long to fill up. It's right at the headwaters of the basin. I think the Atlanta watershed is probably the smallest watershed that serves such a large metropolitan area. Why is all this important? It's important because Metro Atlanta cannot depend solely upon natural surface water flow to meet its water supply needs. We can't rely upon natural surface water flow. We have no natural lakes, therefore we're dependent upon reservoirs, primarily Lake Lanier, Buford Dam, as well as Lake Allatoona, which is right here near the top of your map. I'll go ahead and point this out now. These reservoirs, Lake Allatoona and Lake Lanier, are operated by the federal government, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They're not state properties. And they are also multi-purpose reservoirs. In other words, they do not exist just to meet Atlanta's water supply needs. They are not drinking water reservoirs per se. They are multi-purpose reservoirs operated by the federal government. And again, the Atlanta area is dependent upon those two reservoirs for its water supply. So with that background, let me talk just a little bit about the Supreme Court case, Florida versus Georgia. This is a lawsuit between two states, therefore it falls under the Supreme Court's original jurisdiction. It was a lawsuit filed by Florida in 2013, although its origins go back to the late 1980s, early 1990s. Florida's lawsuit claimed serious harm to its ecology and its economy due to reduced flows in the Apalachicola River resulting from Georgia's increased consumption of water from the ACF basin. As a remedy, Florida requested that the court equitably allocate the waters of the ACF between the states. On the slide, you'll see some key procedural points that's happened in the case. The case was originally assigned to a special master, Mr. Ralph Lancaster, who issued a report in February of 2017 recommending that the court deny Florida's request. In June of 2018, the Supreme Court remanded the case back to the special master, concluding that the wrong legal standard was applied and gave instructions to the special master for further factual findings. In August of 2018, Judge Paul Kelly replaced Mr. Lancaster as special master, and Judge Kelly issued his report to the Supreme Court in December of 2019. Special Master Kelly's report recommends also that the Supreme Court deny Florida's request for three major reasons. Number one, Judge Kelly found that Georgia's consumptive water use in the basin was not the cause of the collapse of the Apalachicola Bay oyster fishery. Number two, Judge Kelly found that Georgia's increased water use in the basin since the 1970s was not unreasonable or inequitable. And I'll just point out here for the committee that Judge Kelly relied upon Georgia's evidence based upon wetted acre tracking and metered agriculture use, something that this committee has long been involved in, rather than models proposed by Florida. And the third reason he ruled in favor of Georgia is that Florida would receive no appreciable benefits from a decree apportioning water between the states. The Supreme Court has scheduled oral arguments on the second special master's report that will occur on February the 22nd. On the 22nd, the court will convene at 10. We are now the only case on the calendar, so I expect it to begin promptly at 10. The case will be heard via conference call, and a live feed will be provided over the internet. So if you Google it, you should be able to listen at 10 o'clock on February 22nd to the oral argument on the Florida v. Georgia case. Let me transition to withdrawals from Lake Lanier. Today, about 22% of Metro Atlanta receives its water supply directly from withdrawals from Lake Lanier. And I thought I would start off at the beginning here with some pictures of the construction of Buford Dam. On the left, these gentlemen in the middle, that's then Atlanta Mayor Hartsfield, which is kind of interesting to have this picture of Mayor Hartsfield here, given the later history. On the right's a member of the Georgia congressional delegation, I'm assuming from the Gainesville area. I'm not sure who that is. And then the photograph down on the right is actually a photograph of the construction of the dam. This is, of course, as I mentioned, a federal project. I believe it was roughly $1 billion to construct. But I put this slide up because there's a big question we should ask these folks and the folks involved in authorizing Lake Lanier. What are the purposes of Lake Lanier? Certainly, we know the purposes of creating Lake Lanier was for hydropower, flood control, and navigation. But was it created in part to provide drinking water supply for Metro Atlanta? And it took us about 50 years to answer that question. The next two slides show a timeline of how that question was answered for Lanier, and hopefully understanding a little bit about the history will help you appreciate the significance of what we've accomplished here in the last 2 years, particularly the significance of an announcement we made about 2 weeks ago. So in the 1950s, Buford Dam was constructed, creating Lake Lanier. Lake Lanier reached full pool in 1959. An important point here that later proves to be very important, because the water intake, the then water intake structures for Buford, the city of Buford and the city of Gainesville were inundated during the creation of the lake, the Corps explicitly authorized these two cities to withdraw 20 million gallons a day directly from the reservoir for water supply as compensation. In the 1970s, 1972, Gwinnett County receives authorization from the Corps to withdraw water from Lake Lanier. I'll note that the Secretary of Army at the time was Mr. Bo Calloway, a Georgian. But that decision by the Army to allow Gwinnett County to withdraw water from Lake Lanier, of course, paved the way for the boom, the growth in the Gwinnett County's economy and population. Also in the 1970s, downstream utilities such as Atlanta and DeKalb began to rely upon special releases by the Corps for Buford Dam for their water supply needs out of the Chattahoochee. And also during the 1970s, the city of Cumming was allowed to withdraw from the lake for water supply. 1980s, the Corps allowed these municipal governments to withdraw from the lake for water supply under a series of very short-term contracts. And finally, in 1989, the Corps proposed what's called a permanent reallocation of storage in Lake Lanier to meet Atlanta's water supply needs. This means from the Corps, what this means was the Corps was proposing to dedicate a specific portion of Lake Lanier exclusively for municipal and industrial water supply. As soon as the Corps proposed reallocating storage in Lake Lanier for Atlanta municipal industrial water supply, their action was quickly halted by litigation from other states and power companies who argued that municipal and industrial water supply was not an authorized purpose of the reservoir, and or the Corps' proposed action would have a detrimental impact on other authorized uses or objectives. So while the lawsuits were proceeding, the interim contracts that Gwinnett, Cumming, and others had to withdraw from the lake were no longer in effect. They essentially expired, but those jurisdictions were allowed to continue to withdraw from the lake, and the Corps continued to make special releases from Buford Dam while the litigation was being settled. In 1997, the litigation was placed on hold after the creation of an ACF compact among the 3 states, Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. That compact was charged with finding a way to allocate the surface waters in the basin among the 3 states. That compact was extended several times, but eventually expired in 2003 without an agreement, and so the litigation resumed. In 2000, switch slides here, the state of Georgia once again requested the Corps reallocate storage in Lanier to meet Metro Atlanta's water supply needs. The Corps took no action, so the Georgia countersued the Corps and now, again, added the state of Georgia to all the litigation. Big decision in 2009, U.S. District Court Judge Paul Magnuson ruled that Lake Lanier's authorized purposes contemplated only navigation, flood control, and hydropower, not municipal and industrial water supply. Judge Magnuson ruled that Georgia's request to the Corps to reallocate storage for water supply required explicit authorization from Congress, and that authorization did not exist. The judge gave Congress 3 years to resolve the dispute. And if that dispute was not resolved, he was going to roll back withdrawals from the lake to pre-1970s level, i.e. Gwinnett County coming would have no water supply from the lake. In 2011, the U.S. Court of Appeals overruled that decision and held that water supply is one of the authorized uses of the lake and ordered the Corps to decide whether to grant Georgia's 2000 reallocation request. In 2017, the Corps approved Georgia's request to reallocate storage in the lake for municipal water supply needs. And in January, just a few weeks ago, a formal contract between the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the state of Georgia was executed for 254,000 acre feet of storage in Lake Lanier to meet the region's water supply needs. Madam Chair, that's a little about the history. I'm sorry it took so long, but you can understand kind of the significance of where we're at in withdrawals from water supply if you understand a little bit about the history.
Thank you so much for Director Dunn. Might be a little bit overwhelming for the committee today. We saw all our natural resources, which are abundant, and then we saw a reality check on us, and that's the water supply for particular areas of the state. This is an ongoing and complex issue, and so periodically for the committee, I'll make sure we're updated. And if you have any questions or need additional information, Director Dunn, I know you'll be available to help them understand some of the complexities. We might try and do a study group or something on it if we have any more questions, but that's a great summary of what is an overwhelming issue before the state of Georgia.
When you hear water wars, those two topics are what it's all about. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Thank you. And to our committee, we will always have opportunities to get with our director heads. You can do it one-on-one. You won't need me or need to go through the committee. I think a basic understanding of the natural resources of our state and of our environmental issues are important for you as committee members to start trying to learn. Someone told me one time this is a committee for geeks, and so we are going to have to do a little bit of homework to keep up and be knowledgeable of our issues. And I see one question. I think we have time. All right, I'll take one question. Yes.
My question, Director Dunn, that you talked about some stats in between two slides, and I was just wanting to know if there was any way. I represent District 26, which is from Beaufort Dam all the way to the Dawson County line, and there was some stats you talked about in between the slides. I was just wanting to know if I could get a copy of your presentation some way.
Absolutely, Representative McDonald. David has a copy of the presentation, and we'll be sure you get a copy, and we have a lot more information. If you'd like, we could have a discussion.
Thank you. And I was informed by David Hartman that he has all of this information and is getting it out to us. As you can see, one question leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. So I encourage all of you on your own to start your own study of these different issues. But thank you very much, Director Dunn. Appreciate it. And I think we're doing okay on time. So what we'll do here is, I wish we had an opportunity to introduce more members, but as we go along, we'll make sure we did that. This is a great committee. And thank you for not cringing at the 8 o'clock meeting time. And we can get a lot done, and we're pretty assured of having our meeting dates to work at this time. But again, thank you and welcome. And David Hartman has the additional information you will need, and Nicole definitely does in our office too. So thank you. We stand adjourned.
Thank you, Madam Chair.